My name is Ivy, I'm 42 years old. A week ago, I buried my mother at an old cemetery in Savannah, Georgia. That morning was stifling, the air so thick it felt like it could swallow every breath. Carnations and white lilies were placed all around the casket, but their fragrance couldn't mask the heaviness in my chest. People came, heads bowed, their condolences sounded hollow, as if they were attending a stranger's ceremony rather than saying goodbye to a woman who had lived her whole life in this community. At the funeral, I stood silently, hands clenched in front of me. No one came to embrace me for long or whisper words of comfort. All the gentle looks, the tender handshakes were for my sister, Vanessa. She walked between the rows like a star on stage, her golden hair catching the breeze, her eyes glistening at just the right moments. I overheard people say, "She's so lucky, at least she has those oceanfront homes to carry on the legacy." Each word lucky cut into me like a blade of ice. Vanessa had always been the jewel my mother paraded at bridge club gatherings and holiday dinners. She was beautiful, eloquent, always knowing how to win affection. Me. Since childhood, I had been the quiet one, fading into the background, never causing trouble but never noticed either. For years, I told myself I didn't need that recognition. But the moment the lawyer's voice filled the dim, wood-paneled office after the funeral, I realized all those old wounds had never really healed. The aging lawyer, Mr. Henderson, opened the folder, his voice steady but weighted. "Vanessa Brooks will receive ownership of 3 oceanfront properties. One on Tybee Island, one on Hilton Head, and one on Isle of Palms." The room went silent, then whispers rippled through. I heard my own heartbeat pounding as if my chest might burst. 3 homes. Not one, not divided. All for my sister. When it came to me, his tone lightened almost like a sigh. "And Ivy Brooks will receive this painting." A faded landscape of river marshes, its wooden frame worn, the glass clouded with dust. It had hung in my mother's bedroom for decades. No explanation. No note attached. Just that. I nodded faintly, forcing a calm expression. But my skin burned hot, my throat tightened. Memories rushed in. Nights I drove her to the emergency room when she struggled to breathe, hospital bills I quietly paid, times I left work early to take her to treatments. I had been there, not Vanessa. Yet now she was handed the grandeur while I was left clutching an old painting. Vanessa turned toward me, lips curving in a mocking smile. "Sister, I suppose Mom just wanted you to keep something sentimental. When it comes to managing real assets, clearly I'm the one who fits." I inhaled deeply, swallowing the bitterness. "Yes. Just a painting," I whispered as if convincing myself it didn't matter. But deep inside, the cut throbbed sharp and raw. When I stepped out of the office, the Savannah afternoon sun stretched across the red brick sidewalk. I hugged the painting tightly to my chest, heavier than a block of stone. Each step weighed down my heart. Cars rushed by, horns blaring, yet I felt as though I were drifting in emptiness, adrift in my own life. I opened the car door, placed the painting on the back seat. In that instant, one truth struck me hard. I had just been cast aside, not only from my mother's legacy but from the very story of our family. I was no longer a character in the memories they chose to preserve. I was just a shadow, watching the inheritance slip through my hands, dissolving into Vanessa's embrace. I gripped the steering wheel tight, a storm rising inside me. As I drove back to my home in the northern suburbs of Savannah, my eyes kept drifting to the old painting in the rearview mirror. It lay still on the back seat, the wooden frame creaking whenever the car hit a pothole. The sunset streamed through the window, making the scratches on the frame look like faint scars. I told myself dozens of times it was nothing but a worthless object, yet my heart trembled as if I were cradling part of my mother's soul. The moment I opened the door, I saw Ethan, my husband, standing in the kitchen. He was 45, tall and broad-shouldered, his face always tight with anger. On the counter sat a half-finished beer bottle. His eyes flicked to the painting in my arms, then his lips curled into a sneer. "So, your sister walked away with 3 oceanfront homes and you," Ethan tapped his fingers in the air, pretending to count, "brought home a piece of trash?" I swallowed hard, my voice catching. "Ethan, that's my mother's keepsake. Please." He cut me off, his tone dripping with contempt. "Don't make excuses. Your whole life you've been nothing but a burden. Even your mother saw it. Real wealth goes to the one who matters. And you got nothing but a dirty rag." I clutched the frame tighter. Don't say that. I took care of her until the very end. Ethan stepped closer, his breath reeking of alcohol. You've always convinced yourself you mattered. But the truth is, nobody needs you, Ivy. His words ripped through me. Before I could react, his hand came crashing across my face. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, spreading across my tongue. My ears rang, my vision spun. He jabbed a finger at the painting in my arms. That useless thing is more like you than anything else. Garbage. With a violent motion, he yanked it away and hurled it to the hardwood floor. The glass shattered with a piercing crack, shards scattering across the room. I collapsed to my knees, trembling hands gathering the pieces as if I could salvage what was left of my mother's memory. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept tracing the fragments. And then, as my fingers brushed a split edge of the wooden frame, I heard it, a faint metallic clink out of place. Something had slipped from a hidden seam in the back. I shoved the shards aside, my heart pounding. There, gleaming under the light, was a small brass key. Tarnished, with ornate carvings at the head, it looked as though it had been concealed for decades. I picked it up, my hand still trembling. The metal's warmth seeped into my skin, stealing my breath. Mom, what did you leave for me? I whispered into the dark. Ethan didn't even look back. He just jerked his chin and muttered, "If you keep chasing that nonsense, you're crazy." Then he grabbed his coat and stormed out, slamming the door. The sound echoed through the hollow house. Only then, in the heavy silence, did I dare look closer. On the splintered back of the frame, delicate etchings appeared. Tilting the light, my heart stopped. It was my mother's handwriting, the looping, graceful letters I'd seen on Christmas cards for years. It read, 27 Magnolia Lane, 1998. My fingers brushed the words gently, afraid they might vanish with too much touch. I remembered my mother whispering when I was little, "Not every gift is wrapped in gold, Ivy." Back then, I thought she was just comforting me because I never got grand presents like Vanessa. But now, the memory echoed with new meaning. I sat on the floor amid the shards, the brass key glowing faintly in my palm. It felt as though my mother was guiding me still, through every clue, every mark. The sting of the slap, the humiliation still burned, but in that moment, a different spark flickered. Hope. Leaning back against the wall, tears streaming down, I whispered, "Mom, I'll find it. No matter what it takes." Outside, Savannah had sunk into night. Yet in my hand, the small key carried a strange weight, as though it was the beginning of a journey I had never imagined. The next morning, I hardly slept a wink. The bruise on my cheek still burned, but what weighed on me wasn't the pain. It was the brass key and the handwritten address etched into the frame. I knew I couldn't just sit still. If Mom had left a clue, she wanted me to uncover something. I threw on a gray cardigan, tied my hair back neatly, and drove straight to Attorney Henderson's office, the same man who had read the will at the funeral. I didn't make an appointment. I simply walked in with a determination that even startled me. The receptionist blinked in surprise at my sudden arrival, but I said firmly, "I need to see Mr. Henderson. Right now." Moments later, he appeared, tall, thin, his silver hair tousled, glasses sliding down his nose. He greeted me politely. "Miss Ivy, what seems to be the matter?" I thought all matters were already settled. I set the key on his desk, my voice low but sharp. "You left something out. My mother gave me this. And I know you understand what it's connected to." His eyes flickered uneasily. He sat down, fingers laced together, pensive. After a long silence, he sighed. "Yes, she did leave instructions. But at her request, I was not to mention them during the reading of the will." My grip tightened on the arm of the chair. "She trusted me, Mr. Henderson. If there's something else that belongs to me, I need to know." Finally, he pulled open a drawer and slid a slim folder toward me. "There is a safe deposit box in your name. It's at the First Federal Branch in downtown Savannah. Here is the confirmation. Only you, with that key and proper identification, are authorized to open it." I held the paper, my heartbeat quickening. The pieces were starting to form the outline of a hidden path. By noon, I was at the bank. The building loomed with tall white columns, imposing against the city street. Walking through the glass doors, my palms were slick with sweat despite my grip on the key. But just as I reached the counter, a familiar voice behind me froze me in place. "You're here too, Ivy?" I turned slowly, already knowing. Vanessa stood there in an elegant cream suit, her blonde hair pulled back, sunglasses perched on her head like she had stepped out of a magazine spread. She leaned casually against a column, her half-smile brimming with confidence. "How do you know about this?" I asked, clutching my purse tighter, forcing calm into my voice. Vanessa gave a delicate shrug. "Mom told me long ago. I honestly didn't think you'd ever figure it out. But I suppose you're not entirely useless." A chill raced down my spine. "Mom," he told her. "Then why entrust the key to me?" The bank manager, a middle-aged man with a professional smile, stepped out. "Mrs. Brooks, please follow me. But by regulation, only the holder of the key whose name is on the file may access the box." Vanessa's expression darkened briefly, but she masked it quickly with a mocking smile. "Go ahead. But don't forget, whatever's in there is part of the estate. Don't think you can keep it from me." I didn't answer. Instead, I followed the manager down a stark corridor. The walls were concrete, the fluorescent lights glaring. He led me to a narrow metal compartment, the number etched discreetly on the door. I drew in a deep breath and slid the key into the lock. The click echoed loudly, breaking the heavy stillness. Pulling open the heavy door, I braced myself. No gold, no cash awaited inside. What I saw made my knees almost buckle. A thick stack of envelopes bound with a frayed blue ribbon. An old leather journal, its cover cracked, the pages yellowed with time. And resting neatly on top, a small envelope marked in handwriting I knew by heart. For Ivy. My hands trembled as I lifted it, my strength nearly gone. My heart swelled with both aching sorrow and fierce hope. For years I thought my mother never truly saw me, but this simple inscription proved the opposite. Just the words "for Ivy" pierced my heart. I drew in a deep breath and carefully split the envelope open. Inside was a single folded sheet, carrying the faint scent of aged paper. The familiar slanted handwriting rose from the page. "Ivy, there are truths no one but you should know. What you find here belongs to you, not to them. Don't let anyone take it away." I read it again and again. Short, sharp like a blade, both a warning and a granting of power. I set the letter aside and pulled out the old leather journal. The cover was cracked, dark brown, reeking of moldy leather. My fingers trembled as I opened to the first page. Mom's handwriting filled it, notes, dated entries from decades past. At first, small fragments about hospital visits, financial struggles, the times my father disappeared. But on page 17, my breath snagged in my chest. "If anything happens to me, the only one I trust is Ivy." I gripped the journal tighter, my pulse hammering. Then the lines that followed drowned me in a storm. "Vanessa is not my biological daughter. She was born from a mistake. Your father, in weakness, betrayed me and brought back that child. The other woman could not raise her, and he begged me to hide it to preserve our dignity." I swallowed the shame, took Vanessa in, raised her as my own, but my heart never stopped breaking. I sat frozen. The words carved themselves into my mind, unraveling everything I thought I knew. My whole life I believed Mom simply loved Vanessa more. I blamed myself for not being smart enough, beautiful enough, worthy enough. But the truth, it wasn't love, it was guilt. A desperate attempt to keep the family's face intact. My eyes blurred as memories swarmed. Every time Mom shielded Vanessa despite her faults. Every cold dismissal toward me, contrasted with tender indulgence for her. It wasn't because I was unworthy. It was because every glance at Vanessa reminded Mom of betrayal, of humiliation she had to bury. She poured her favor onto Vanessa not out of true affection, but to cover wounds I had nothing to do with. I flipped further, every line slicing deeper. "Ivy, if you are reading this, I am gone. You must understand, what I left in the will is only a facade. What truly belongs to you lies beyond their reach. Stand firm. Do not fear." Near the back, tucked between pages, was a thick envelope. My hands nearly went numb pulling it free. Inside were documents stamped in red. My chest tightened as I scanned them. Property title deed. Wentworth Estate, Charleston. Legal owner, Ivy Brooks. I collapsed into the chair. The neon-lit room seemed to dim around me. Wentworth Estate, once whispered about in hushed tones at family gatherings. A vast property with acres of land and a historic mansion on Charleston's edge. I never dreamed it would be mine. Hot tears streamed down my cheeks. My whole life I had been the overlooked one, the shadow behind Vanessa's shine. Yet here was Mom, quietly leaving me the greatest gift, deliberately shielding it from the official will. Not for Vanessa. Not for anyone else. For me. I hugged the journal to my chest, my heart thrashing. Pain, shock, and an unfamiliar joy tangled inside me. The old painting, the key, nothing but the beginning of a truth I had never dared imagine. Through the glass door, I glimpsed Vanessa still waiting, her eyes sharp, her lips pressed thin. She didn't know, not yet. But soon she would realize the pedestal she clung to was crumbling. I closed the journal, tucked it and the documents into my bag. Mom's voice echoed in my head as if she were right beside me. This truth is yours, not theirs. I wiped my tears and drew a long breath. My hand tightened around the envelope, a fierce resolve surging through me. From this moment I knew, nothing would ever be the same again. That night, as I sat alone in the living room with Mom's papers and journals still spread across the table, a pounding knock rattled the door. I already knew who it was before I opened it. My gut warned me this would be a confrontation. Vanessa stood on the porch, wrapped in a beige designer dress that hugged her figure, her blonde hair sleek, lips painted a bold red. Her eyes glimmered with challenge. "We need to talk," she said flatly, skipping any greeting. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "If this is about the painting, there's nothing to discuss. It's mine, legally and clearly." Her brows arched, a cold smile tugging at her lips. "Don't play dumb, Ivy. You know Mom only pitied you, that's why she gave you that scrap. The painting, the journal, whatever came with it, they're family relics. Keeping them is wrong." I met her blazing blue eyes head on. "Wrong? The property title says my name. If I'm wrong, then so is the law, isn't it?" Her smile froze for a heartbeat. She glanced inside as if planning to push her way in, but I stood firm, not budging an inch. The air thickened, sharp with tension. Finally, she flicked her hair back, her voice dripping sarcasm. "Fine. Tomorrow. Riverfront K. Public place, where you won't dare pull anything. I'll explain how this really needs to be handled." I gave a small nod and shut the door as her heels clattered down the steps. The next morning, I arrived 10 minutes early. At a window table, I placed my phone beside my coffee cup, the recording app running silently. My heart raced, but this time it wasn't fear. Vanessa arrived exactly on time, gliding in with the confidence of someone who thought the world owed her attention. She slid into the chair without waiting, removed her sunglasses and dove straight in. "The Charleston estate. I know you've seen the papers. Mom wanted me to manage it, but you've decided to hoard it all. Do you really think you can handle it? You don't have the experience, the money, or the vision. I have everything. Sign it over and I'll give you, let's call it compensation." I sipped my coffee, steadying my voice. "Vanessa, the deed says my name. That isn't your wishful thinking, it's the law. If Mom truly wanted you to run it, why didn't she put it in the will?" Her lips twitched, then stiffened back into arrogance. "Because she trusted me. She knew you'd never be more than a placeholder. You've always been the shadow in this family, Ivy. Don't fool yourself." I let out a quiet laugh. "If I'm just a shadow, why did she leave the key with me and not you?" For a flicker of a second, her composure cracked. Then she leaned forward, her tone sharp as glass. "Fine. Keep clutching it. But hear me, that estate will be mine sooner or later. I have lawyers' connections. You have nothing but scraps of paper." Every word slipped cleanly into my phone's recorder. Outside the window, the Savannah River sparkled under noon light, a stark contrast to the knife-edge tension between us. "Vanessa," I said slowly, "you've always been used to having it all. But those days are over. I'm not the silent Ivy who swallows everything anymore. If you push, I'll push back." Her eyes flared. She shot up, chair scraping loud against the floor. "We'll meet again. And next time I'll take everything back. Believe me." She stormed out, leaving only a trail of strong perfume and the echo of her heels across the cafe. I stayed still, reaching over to stop the recording, my heartbeat finally slowing. On my phone, every word she confessed was now saved, proof for the battles ahead. I stared down at the cold coffee and whispered to myself, this fight has only just begun. That night, the house lay in silence. I replayed the recording from my meeting with Vanessa, jotting down every detail I could use as evidence. For a fleeting moment, I felt the taste of victory, until the rattle of the front door cut through the quiet. My chest tightened. I was certain I had locked it. The door swung open and Ethan stepped inside. His shirt was wrinkled, the stench of alcohol clinging to him. His eyes carried no warmth, only a cold sharpness that made me take a step back. "I still have a key," he sneered, dropping onto the sofa as if this house still belonged to him. "We need to talk." I forced my voice steady, though my insides trembled. "We're done, Ethan. You have no right to be here." He let out a hollow laugh. "Done? Don't be naive, Ivy. I know about the Charleston estate. I know the papers are in your hands. And you're going to sign them over to me." My fists clenched. My tone sharpened. "You're delusional. That property is in my name legally." Ethan leaned forward, his voice low, hissing through his teeth. "If you don't sign, I'll make sure everyone in Savannah knows what kind of woman you are. I have texts, photos, recordings, enough to make you look insane, deceitful. Who will believe a woman with that stain on her name? Meanwhile, I'll be the poor husband betrayed." The threat landed like a punch to the chest, but I forced myself to stand taller, refusing to flinch. "You want to smear me? Go ahead. But remember, I've recorded everything you did. The slap, the insults. Do you really think you look cleaner than me?" A flicker of surprise flashed across his face, quickly hardening into rage. His hand slammed against the table, rattling the glass. "You'll regret this, Ivy. You think you're stronger? What a joke. You survived because of me. Without me, you're nothing." I stepped closer, my voice unshakable. "Wrong, Ethan. Because of you, I learned I'd been living in fear for years. Not anymore. I'm not the obedient wife who bows her head. I will not sign, I will not bend, and I will not yield." He narrowed his eyes, as if seeing for the first time that the woman before him was no longer the doll he could control. We stood locked in silence, neither backing down. Finally, Ethan snatched up his coat, rising with a sharp motion. "Just wait. I'll be back. And next time you won't slip away so easily." The door slammed, its echo reverberating through the house. I leaned against the wall, my heart pounding wildly, but my eyes no longer held panic. Fear lingered, yes, but alongside it burned a fierce determination. This wasn't just arguments whispered in the dark anymore. This was open war, and I could not afford to lose. My gaze fell to the table, where the leather journal and property papers lay untouched. My hand settled on them, trembling but firm. "They've grown used to my silence," I whispered. "Now it's time they learn to face the real Ivy." 3 days after my confrontation with Ethan, I found a thick envelope shoved under my door. Fine paper, crisp black ink. A letter from Vanessa Brooks's attorney. The words were cold, demanding I cease possession of property not lawfully yours, return all documents and items tied to the estate. At the end, they hinted that I was unfit to manage a large-scale asset, which could tarnish the Brooks family's reputation. I sat in silence, my hands trembling but my eyes sharpened. Anger and resolve rose together inside me. I opened a drawer, pulled out Mom's letter, and read again her words, "Stand firm when they try to erase you." My chest sank, then surged with strength. I knew I couldn't retreat. The next day, I met with Attorney Cartwright, a woman in her 50s renowned for handling thorny inheritance battles. She listened without interruption, her gaze steady. I laid everything on the table. Mom's leather journal, the Wentworth estate deed in my name, the cafe recording of Vanessa, and photos of the bruises Ethan had left on my face. "These," I said firmly, "will show them I'm not someone to push around anymore." Cartwright nodded. "Ivy, are you prepared for a long fight? This isn't just about property. It's about honor. It's about your right to stand in your own family." "I'm ready," I answered, and for the first time in years I believed my own words. Days later, the local press exploded. Brooks' inheritance dispute, the forgotten sister fights back. Paparazzi photos of me leaving Cartwright's office spread quickly. Vanessa fired back, claiming through her representatives that I was fabricating stories to destroy the family's image. Ethan smeared me online, painting me as unstable, and hinting I needed treatment. But I had prepared. In a short local interview, I didn't argue loudly. I said just one thing: the truth will prove itself. Then I let the evidence do the rest. On the first day in court, the Chatham County Courthouse was packed. Reporters crowded the hallways. I walked in wearing a sharp black suit, my hair pulled into a neat bun, my face calm though my pulse thundered. Across the aisle, Vanessa posed in a pristine white dress, trying to look like the perfect heir, while Ethan smirked in a gray suit, sneering when our eyes met. The hearing began, the air thick with tension. Cartwright rose, her voice firm, requesting the court issue a freeze order on all assets until the case was resolved. She laid out each piece of evidence. The Wentworth estate deed, Mom's journal entry reading, "If anything happens to me, I only trust Ivy," and the letter that said, "This truth is yours, not theirs." The judge skimmed the documents. Vanessa's composure cracked. Impossible. My mother would never. But the judge's gavel cut her short. Then Cartwright asked to play the recordings. First came Vanessa's voice at the cafe. "That estate is mine. You're not capable. I'll make you sign. Mom trusted me, not you." The words echoed loud in the courtroom. Murmurs spread, eyes turned, Vanessa's face drained pale. She forced a weak smile, but the damage was done. Next came Ethan's voice from my living room, harsh and venomous. "Sign the papers, Ivy. If not, I'll make this whole town believe you're insane. I'll ruin you." The sound dropped the room into silence. Some in the gallery shook their heads, whispers of disgust rippling. Ethan sprang up, sputtering protests, but the judge ordered him silent. His face flushed red, sweat dotting his temples. Cartwright turned to the bench. "Your Honor, this is not just a property dispute. This is a coordinated attempt to intimidate, seize, and defame my client. We ask the court to protect her lawful rights and freeze all assets tied to Wentworth Estate until this case is fully heard." The judge paused, then struck the gavel. "Motion granted. The freeze order takes immediate effect." The courtroom erupted in noise. I sat still, my hands folded on the table, a wave of relief washing over me. Vanessa glared at me, eyes blazing with hatred. Ethan clenched his jaw, helpless to strike back. I felt no triumph. Only the quiet sense that somewhere Mom was nodding in approval, acknowledging that I had finally claimed my place. The next morning my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Newspapers, television, even local online outlets all blasted the same headline: "The Forgotten Sister Overturns the Brooks Inheritance Battle." A photo of me walking out of court in a sharp black suit, calm-eyed, was plastered across front pages. Comments flooded in: "She's the truly strong one, silent for years, now finally standing tall." I never imagined I'd become a symbol of resilience against injustice. Vanessa, the once prized golden daughter of the family, was suddenly the target of ridicule. Reports unearthed her hidden credit card debts, her lavish trips paid with borrowed money. The image of the perfect heiress crumbled overnight. Those who once idolized her now mocked her, leaving biting articles in their wake. Worse still, her attorney withdrew, citing inability to represent a dishonest client. The blow cut the last thread of her carefully crafted dignity. On TV, I saw her, dark circles under her eyes, hair disheveled, dodging reporters outside her luxury condo. Gone was the proud, arrogant sister who had sneered at me in court. What remained was a woman unraveling, drowning in debt and lawsuits. And Ethan, the man who once strutted as if he were the family's backbone, wasn't spared either. When the recordings of his threats and the photos of his violence surfaced, police officially opened an investigation. I received a call from the district attorney's office. "We'd like your cooperation in providing further evidence of domestic abuse." I agreed, my heart suddenly light. The years I had endured in silence were no longer hidden wounds. They now stood under the light of justice. On every news channel, footage ran of Ethan being escorted by police. He no longer looked smug. His shirt was wrinkled, hair unkempt, face hollow. For the first time he tasted the judgment I had carried alone for so long. That evening I sat in my living room with the TV on. A news program replayed the moment I walked out of court, with Vanessa crumbling behind me and Ethan bowing his head. The anchor's voice rang clear. "This is one of the most sensational family cases of the year. From the overlooked sister, Ivy Brooks has emerged as proof of strength and resolve." I watched my own reflection on the screen and a stillness washed over me. I didn't smile. I didn't clap in triumph. Instead, peace seeped in, a feeling I had never known. Yet I knew it wasn't over. Debt and lawsuits would drag Vanessa down further. Police would continue their investigation into Ethan. And me, I had to decide what to do next with Wentworth Estate. It wasn't just property. It was part of Mom's legacy, proof that she had trusted me. I switched off the TV and stepped onto the porch. The Savannah night wind swept cool across my skin, carrying the salty scent of the river nearby. I closed my eyes and heard again the words Mom had written, "Stand firm when they try to erase you." 1 month after the trial, I officially moved into Wentworth Estate, the vast property on the outskirts of Charleston. The road leading in was shaded by towering oaks draped in Spanish moss, like natural curtains swaying in the breeze. Walking through the iron gates for the first time felt like opening a new chapter of my life. Not the woman dismissed and overshadowed by her sister, but finally myself. The 3-story mansion rose tall and dignified, though worn from years of neglect. Wooden doors cracked, roof tiles chipped, windows heavy with dust. Yet instead of discouragement, my heart raced. This was more than a house. It was a chance to rebuild, not just for me but for women who had lived through what I had. I set to work immediately. Construction crews, architects, and young artists came together. My vision was for Wentworth Estate to be more than property. It would become headquarters for a foundation supporting women who survived abuse and young artists seeking a place to belong. In those once cold rooms, I imagined art classes, counseling spaces, exhibition halls for those pushed to the margins. On the very first day the workers cleared the main hallway, I personally hung Mom's painting, the one Ethan had smashed. I had it restored, the cracked frame repaired, the shattered glass replaced. Now it hung proudly above the grand fireplace in the living room. Every time I looked at it, I saw not the cold mother of my memories, but a symbol of strength and healing. Many nights, I sat in freshly painted rooms, the scent of new wood mingling with the ocean breeze drifting through the windows. I thought about my journey, from a woman stripped and humiliated, to one who stood her ground in court, and now the rightful steward of this estate. I realized Mom's true legacy wasn't written in deeds or carved into stone walls. It was the courage to claim my place. One Saturday morning, the first group of women arrived, those who had sought help after escaping violence. They stepped through the gates timidly, eyes still shadowed with fear. I welcomed them with a soft smile, no grand speeches, just a gentle gesture leading them inside. In their hesitant faces, I saw myself just a year earlier. Lost, dismissed, unsure where to turn. In the living room, a young woman stopped before Mom's painting, staring in silence. I joined her side, speaking softly. "This painting was once shattered, but I restored it. Just like us, broken but able to heal and stronger for it." Her lips pressed tight, and then a tear rolled down her cheek as she nodded. Slowly, Wentworth Estate filled with life. Hammering echoed alongside children's laughter. The scent of fresh timber mixed with coffee from the kitchen. I opened a small gallery for young painters to hang their first works. In the garden, tents rose for outdoor workshops. Every corner of the house carried a mark of beginning, no longer a monument to family secrets. One afternoon, I stood on the balcony overlooking the sea. Waves rolled steady, the sunset gilding the water. My phone rang, a journalist asking if I would share my story in a special feature on women overcoming abuse. I smiled. Yes, but I don't want to talk about pain. I want to talk about what we can build after we rise. I knew Vanessa still struggled with debt and lawsuits, and Ethan's investigation dragged on with no end in sight. But they no longer occupied my mind. I had my own path. They were only shadows behind me while I walked in the light. That night, I placed my hand on the painting and whispered, "Mom, I have stood firm. I no longer seek a seat at their table. I have built my own." Ivy's story is not only about reclaiming justice from her sister and ex-husband, but also a mirror of real life. Many women have been dismissed, silenced, and stripped of their voice within their own families. Yet by daring to stand up, hold on to the truth, and protect themselves, they can turn pain into strength and transform scars into the foundation for a new life. In reality, the greatest legacy is not money or fame, but the courage to break free from toxic ties and affirm one's true worth. What do you think about Ivy's journey and all she went through? If you were in her place, how would you act? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more intense family stories coming soon.